Who is piloting the UAPs or UFOs constantly seen in our skies? Where are they from? Why are they here? How long have they been here? What is their mission on planet Earth? Do they come in peace, or do they have more sinister motives? Join Mad Mark as he uncovers the answers to these questions and many more of the mysteries that puzzle us all on Who Are the Aliens? The history of the Anunnaki on planet Earth. And now, here's Mad Mark.
Today's episode, Our Ridiculous Labels, Why People Cling to Them So Hard, and Just How Destructive They Can Be. Hello everyone, and welcome to Who Are the Aliens? The history of the Anunnaki on planet Earth. I, of course, am Mad Mark, and before I begin, just a quick reminder to please like, share, and comment. It helps so much. Today, we are taking a break from Zecharia Sitchin's 9th book, The Lost Book of Enki. We will return to it on the next episode. But on this episode, I want to take some time to talk about labels. Why are humans so infatuated with labels, even to the point of fighting and dying over them? And of course, I'm not talking about the labels you find on the products that you buy at the store. Oh no. I'm talking about the labels that are thrust upon us at the moment of our birth, and the fact that we continue trying to stamp ourselves with as many labels as possible as we journey through life. Now, I had been debating with myself for several days on exactly how to wrap up this topic of labels. And then the universe sent me a TikTok video that was exactly what I was looking for. It never ceases to amaze me how once you are in tune with the universe, how it always gives you exactly what you need at exactly the right time. But I'll get into all that in the video a little bit later in the show. A couple days ago, I had a follower message me on one of my social media platforms. They wanted to know about death. What happens when we die? I told them that it's a lot like the Buddhists believe, that we are created from source energy, and when our bodies expire, we return to that same source energy. The best analogy I can give you is to compare it to the ocean and waves. As you know, an ocean is a vast body of water, and occasionally something comes along and causes waves to form. It could be huge waves caused by an ocean liner passing by, or a small wave created by a whale fart. Either way, a wave is created. Okay, if you're not sure how we humans are created, I suggest you study a sex education course. So this newly created wave, similar to us, continues on with its existence until such a time as it weakens, fades, and once again becomes a part of the ocean. We humans are created from source energy, and when we die, we return to it and become once again a part of source energy. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are the universe attempting to experience what it is like to be everyone and everything. To live lives from every possible perspective, from something as simple as a pebble to something as huge and as complicated as the sun. Everything and everyone is the universe experiencing existence. So why did I bring this all up? Well, because we are all the same energy when we are in source, and we all return to the same energy when we return to source. Now, we are also energy while we are in these bodies, but that energy is now in the form of a human being. The point I'm trying to make here is very simple. If we all originate from the same source energy, and we all return to the same source energy when we die, then why do we concern ourselves so damn much with things that separate us while we are in these bodies? We are constantly creating labels that set some of us apart from the rest of us. And on top of all that, many people become so entrenched in their labels during their lives that they become willing to fight and die for them. Now, let me use my own life as an example here. When I was born many years ago, before I had even taken my first breath, several labels had already been thrust upon me. And 3 of those were simply because of what patch of ground I landed on when I appeared out of my mother's womb. Suddenly, through no fault of my own, I was a St. Louisan, a Missourian, and an American. Now, technically, I guess I could have been labeled an Earthling as well, but we all fall into that category, so I'm going to let that one slide. But even as a newborn, if my parents had wished to leave the country and take me with them, I would have needed paperwork and documents in order to do so. Let's compare that to the beings known as Homo erectus, who populated the Earth back in the days before the Anunnaki arrived and used them to create we humans. They did not need paperwork or passports. They simply wandered to wherever the wind called them. While it's true that they did not have cars, boats, planes, or trains to shuttle them from place to place, and they were limited to going only as far as their feet would carry them, they never had to worry about documents or passports. They had the freedom to roam to wherever they chose because they had no labels. Oh, sure, there was probably the occasional territorial tribal dispute, but that would have only resulted in the throwing back and forth of sticks and stones. No, these Homo erectus experienced true freedom, because the Anunnaki hadn't arrived yet to introduce us to the wonderful world of labels. But what other labels were attached to me at the moment of my birth, without me even asking for them? Well, my parents were white, and thus, likewise, so am I. I was given the label of Caucasian, because the simple label human being or earthling just simply isn't good enough. They need to know how to categorize you. Are you white, black, brown, red, yellow, tan, taupe, beige? This is important so that we can all keep the different colors separated. We must give you a label to identify your skin color. So now that we have everybody separated by country and skin color, what other labels were stamped on me at birth? Well, my parents were Republicans, so boom. Congratulations, Mr. Newborn. You are now a member in good standing of the Republican Party of the United States of America. Now, of course, that particular label can change over time. A person may decide as you get older to change political affiliations or drop them altogether, as I eventually did. But at the moment of my birth, I was labeled as a Republican. But wait, there's more. My parents were also Christians, so immediately I was given that label as well. And Jesus was my Savior. Wasn't that convenient? Simply because I was born to Christian parents in the good old USA, I now had a free pass to heaven. Unlike all those poor, unfortunate bastards in every Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Jewish, Zoroastrian, Shinto, Taoist, Confucianist, or unaffiliated country, I was born a Christian, which automatically means that my religion is right, everybody else's is wrong, I'm going to heaven, and they will all burn in hell, right? That's the way religions work, isn't it? No matter where you were born, no matter which religion you were indoctrinated into, yours is the correct spiritual path to God. All other religions are wrong. I'm going to heaven, and you're not. How lucky can a guy get? Woohoo! But wait, there's more still. Perhaps I wasn't granted a golden ticket to heaven after all, because just being a Christian isn't good enough either, it seems. Oh no, it still depends on what sect of Christianity you belong to. My parents were Episcopalian, and according to the United Pentecostal Church, the Church of Christ, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, only they have the true path to heaven. But don't think that I'm just picking on Christianity here. Islam offers us more of the same. The Hadith attributed to Muhammad, and known as the Hadith of 73 sects, states that there will be 73 different sects within Islam, and that only one of those will reach salvation in heaven. And that, of course, would just happen to be the one that you believe in, right? Now, Judaism is a bit less complicated. Unlike Christianity and Islam, it does not offer a single exclusive ticket to heaven, but instead it believes in fulfilling the covenant through observance of the Torah. But you do have at least three choices: Orthodox, Conservative, or Reform. Okay, next on our list of labels given to us at birth is our sex. Yes, now one might assume that this would be a rather easy label. You're either male or female, right? But no, it's not quite that easy, because sometimes the Creator, or the universe, puts female energy into a male body, or male energy into a female body, and the label that we have created for those people is gay. I can just hear the religious people's response to that one, with, of course, the exception of the Buddhists, who are much more enlightened and don't have a problem with it. Oh, don't mention the gays. Oh, no, you're going to go straight to hell for that. But let's examine this for a moment. Whether you are religious or not, I think that we can all agree that the Creator does not make mistakes, right? I'll certainly go along with that. So, if the Creator created someone with a certain sexual orientation, then it's a pretty safe bet that it did so for a reason. It was intentional. And who are we to question the Creator's intentions? And yet, the gay community is constantly ridiculed by religious groups all over the globe, and their basic human rights are continually under assault. Why? Because many people who fall under the label of straight cannot handle anyone who has been labeled as gay. There's those pesky labels again. Now, I think at this point, I have pretty much covered all of the labels that were thrust upon me at birth. But as we journey through life, we constantly search for still more labels to define ourselves. By the time we reach adulthood, the list can be endless. You can join a club. I'm a Mason. I'm an Elk. I'm a Legionnaire. I'm a Shriner. When you go to a party, what's the first thing they ask you? What is the label for what you do for a living? I'm a carpenter. I'm a politician. I'm a chemist. I'm a doctor. It's the first thing people want to know. In situations like that, I often say I'm a professional smartass and leave it at that. But I would like to suggest a few other more pertinent questions to ask at parties. How about, what do you do for spiritual enlightenment? Or perhaps, what method do you use to raise your body's vibration? These are far more important questions. Yes, there are literally millions of labels that humans like to use to define themselves. The list of possibilities is endless. But what is wrong with not defining yourself? What is wrong with simply saying, I am? I exist, therefore I am. What was it that Enlil said to Moses at the burning bush? I am that I am. Hey, if it's good enough for an Anunnaki god, then it sure as hell should be good enough for us, right? But what exactly is wrong with labels? How can they be harmful? Let's examine that for a moment. When your labels become your identity, congratulations, you're officially screwed. Because now it's not just an idea, now it's you. And when the idea gets challenged, you don't hear disagreement, you hear an attack I see it all the time on my social media. So what do? You build a bubble, a nice, soft, padded little bubble where everyone agrees with you, uses the same words as you, hates the same people, and claps at the exact right moments. And you will defend that bubble at all costs, even if it makes you sound incredibly stupid. Facts don't matter anymore. Logic is gone. Humor, dead. Because admitting that you're wrong would mean admitting that your label is wrong, and that is unacceptable. So you double down, louder, angrier, dumber, and that's how you end up defending nonsense like it's sacred scripture. Not because it's true, but because without it, you feel as if you have no identity. Yes, labels can be destructive. A perfect example of this is the fact that people are willing to fight and die in defense of these labels. Labels like religions and country. People are willing to fight and die in defense of the patch of ground that their asses plopped onto at the time of their birth. And the bad part about that is that people who are really in charge of this planet know that you're willing to do that. They know that many people are willing to take up arms in defense of their countries, in defense of this label that was thrust upon them at the time that they were born. Because people identify with their labels. They become their labels. So much so that they feel that they need to defend these imaginary lines that divide us into countries. Again, let me remind you all that we come from source energy, and we return to that same source energy when we die. So, when we go to war, we are only fighting because this perceived enemy has a different earthly label than we do. It's all a mind game. How many times over the past century have we gone to war with another country, and then years later, those same countries are now our allies? So thousands of people have lost their lives in these terrible wars, and now we are the best of friends with these same countries that we once fought against so viciously. Germany and Japan are perfect examples of this. And that brings me to the TikTok video that I mentioned earlier in the show. Now, I realize that this is a fictional story that I'm about to tell you about here, so just bear with me. Did you know that in 1975, a Saturday morning children's cartoon called Planet of the Apes aired a scene that was far more chilling than anything Charlton Heston encountered in the big screen version of that film? In the episode entitled The Unearthly Prophecy, American astronauts wander into the subterranean ruins of what used to be the New York Public Library. And there, amidst the rubble of human knowledge, they find cloaked mutants wandering around chanting a single word over and over. Now, to a child that was watching Saturday morning cartoons in the mid-70s, it was a nonsense word. It made no sense. But to the adults in the room, the horror was recognizable and immediate. They were chanting, "Ooh-sa, ooh-sa." This wasn't just a grim Easter egg. It was a direct accusation. While the 1968 film left the cause of the apocalypse somewhat ambiguous until the final reveal, this cartoon for children confirmed that these hooded mutants, remnants of a once great society destroyed by nuclear war, were actually chanting the same thing that we currently chant in support of our country, in support of our label, USA, USA. So, in this fictional world of Planet of the Apes, thousands of years after their planet had been destroyed by nuclear war, these torn and tattered remnants of a once great society had unknowingly turned the abbreviation of United States of America into a single word, USA. Still carrying on the label from a society, from a country, from a world that they no longer knew anything about. Because if they had any idea what had actually taken place thousands of years earlier that had totally devastated their planet, I highly doubt that they would have still been praising one of the countries or labels responsible for its destruction. Now, of course, as I said earlier, this was a fictional story from a children's Saturday morning cartoon, but it's a perfect example of the dangers of the power of labels. But why do we chant USA, USA? Many people would say that it's to show support for the label known as our country. It sure is powerful, right? All of those voices chanting together in unison, you can just feel the energy in that moment. But that energy that you are feeling is actually your own source energy being channeled into this chant of USA. It's no different than the power that you might feel at a rock concert while everybody chants, we will rock you," or at a church service while singing a particularly robust hymn. Churchgoers will try to tell you that it's the power of God. No, it's your own source energy being magnified by the source energy of all the other people there with you at the event. That is how powerful you are, and how powerful we all are when we come together as one. That's some powerful stuff, and we've all felt it at one time or another in our lives. But are we chanting USA because of the land inside its imaginary borders, or are we chanting it because of the ideals that it stands for? Every country has its problems, to be sure, right? I mean, if we're going to acknowledge all of these different countries inside these imaginary borders that we've created here on Earth, then we have to at least concede the fact that there is no such thing as the perfect country, right? I mean, we might think our own country is perfect because it's ours. It's one of our labels. We identify with it. It's become a part of who we think we are in this earthly existence. Remember, we all came from the same source energy, and we will return to it when we die. I cannot say that enough times. But here on Earth, all bets are off. Divide, divide, divide. I need my labels. I have convinced myself that these labels are important. They define me. They are who I am, right? I mean, that's what you're all saying right now, isn't it? I can just hear you. After everything I've said so far, you are still struggling to let them go, aren't you? That's okay. Awareness doesn't happen overnight. I'm not expecting miracles here. I'm just giving you something to think about. So let's talk about this label of USA, since that's the one I know the most about, the one that was stamped on me at my birth. Who are these people that are chanting USA, USA? Should everybody in America be doing it? Let's examine it, shall we? Now, if you're a CEO of an American corporation, then you probably feel like standing up and shouting USA, USA, because the average income last year for a Fortune 500 CEO in America was roughly $17 million. Which reminds me, do you know when America stopped being the land that was for the people and by the people, and instead became the land for the corporations and by the corporations? Well, that little event happened in 2010 with something called Citizens United, which had nothing to do with us citizens at all. It was a landmark Supreme Court decision that ruled that corporations and unions had the first same amendment free speech rights as us regular citizens. You know, we the people. This now allows the corporations to spend unlimited amounts of money each year on political broadcasts, ads, enabling super PACs and vast dark money spending, etc., etc. You know, a comedian once claimed that all politicians should be forced to wear NASCAR-type fire suits so that we can all tell exactly who their sponsors are. I think that would be a great idea. At least then we could tell which corporations we're voting for in each election. And they should thank their sponsors every time they accomplish something. Can't you just hear it? Hey, Senator, great job on passing that bill today. Well, thank you, Bob, but I couldn't have done it without the support of my sponsors. I'd like to thank... But getting back to these CEOs and their $17 million paychecks, what exactly does this do for the average American worker? Do they see any monetary benefits from any of this? Does the money trickle down to any of them at all? Absolutely not. The American middle class is slowly disappearing. Homelessness is running wild in America. People are having to work 2 jobs just to make ends meet. And many 40-hour-per-week workers are being forced to live in their cars because they can't pay their rent. Does this sound like America to you? It certainly is not the America that I grew up in, when working 40 hours per week meant that you could not only support your family, but also buy a house and even a new car now and then. So what about these people? Should the homeless, the people living in their cars, and those who are barely keeping their heads above water stand beside the $17 million per year CEOs and chant USA, USA? Yeah, probably not. What about the indigenous American Indian people? You know, the ones that were slaughtered and then rounded up and put on reservations. Should they stand up and chant USA, USA? What about Latino Americans? These are people who were born in America, have contributed endless labor to our country, and now find themselves being hounded and harassed by our own government. Should they stand up and chant USA, USA? How about black Americans? Geez, there's some people that have been shit on since day one here in America. And don't say that they now have equal rights in this country, because did you know that the Equal Rights Amendment of 1972 was never ratified? And even if they did have equal rights, they most certainly do not have equal opportunities in many states. And guess what? You can have as many rights as you want, but without the opportunities to make your life better, you're still screwed. And now we have people starting up whites-only communities in Arkansas, and they're trying to expand that to other sites in Missouri and Tennessee. And get this, they are naming it Return to the Land. Really? You mean the land of the red man? Because that's what America was before we showed up. So exactly what land are you returning to? It sounds like the land of the racists to me. Well, I'll tell you one thing. They never have to worry about Mad Mark moving in, because I can't think of anything more goddamn boring than living in an area without the beauty of people of color in it. No thanks. That's just not for me. But you go ahead and build it. You can have your little square dance in the center of town every Saturday night with music provided by the Swamp Rat Shit Kicker Band. Hey, maybe a tobacco spitting contest or an all-you-can-eat corn feed. Maybe buy Uncle Jesse a pair of new suspenders and have him show up to give free harmonica lessons. Boy, howdy, we're having fun now. But you know that you don't have to go through all of this trouble just to avoid people of color, right? There are literally cities and towns that already exist all over America where you won't find any black people. Now, I'll say this really slowly so that you can comprehend it. It's called rural America. Hey, I've driven through Arkansas. It's basically Little Rock and a whole lot of nothing. There's plenty of rural there. You should have no trouble finding places with no black folks in them in that area. But see, it's not really about segregating yourself from people of color now, is it? It's about control, right? You want to be able to say that no black folks are allowed in. It gives you a feeling of power. Hell, I grew up in rural America. In fact, I never really saw or interacted with a person of color until my family moved to Minneapolis when I was 12 years old. And guess what? We moved right in next door to a black man who was a bachelor. And I'll tell you something, it was a wonderful experience, and it really opened my eyes. Leroy was an amazing man, one of the coolest people I have ever known in my life. I loved him, and I miss him every day. So after all of this, should black Americans stand up and chant USA, USA? And the list goes on and on. It sounds like those 500 CEOs might be a little lonely, doesn't it? They'll be out there chanting all by themselves. Now, many of you are probably saying, "Now, Mad Mark, that talk sounds a little anti-American to me." Well, I say to you that I believe that it is America who has become un-American. What? Those aren't the words of a true patriot, are they? Wrong. I love my country, even amidst all of these problems. But a true patriot is not a person who sees a problem and just shrugs and says, "Well, that's just the way it is. We're still the greatest country on the planet." No, a true patriot sees an issue, sees trouble, sees injustice, and stands up to fight it, to correct it, to change it, to get us back on track. When so many Americans can't even afford to live here anymore, are homeless, are living in their cars, working 2 jobs to make ends meet, are being harassed by agents of their own government, don't have equal rights and opportunities, this is not the America I grew up in. This is not what all our veterans throughout history fought and died for. What has happened to us? We have lost our way. It's very simple. And we have allowed our labels to divide us. Remember what I said about source energy. We are all a part of the same source energy. We were all created from it, and we will all return to it when we die. So why can't we all live as one while we are here? Why do we allow these earthly labels to tear us apart and divide us? Let's re-examine that Planet of the Apes children's cartoon that I mentioned earlier in the show, and the mindless hooded dregs of a post-apocalyptic society walking around chanting "Ooh-sa, ooh-sa," because they really didn't understand what it was that they were saying. I suggest that we all start doing this. Whenever we are in a situation where people are chanting USA, USA, we should all start chanting "Ooh-sa, ooh-sa." Hey, we're still being patriotic, right? We're still chanting USA. We're just saying it as a word instead of spelling out the letters. Let that be our new cry for change. Until this country returns to being for the people and by the people instead of for and by the corporations. Until the cost of living drops to where homelessness is eradicated and people can support their families with a 40-hour per week job. Until we all have the same rights and opportunities for advancement. Until prejudice disappears and we can see each other as people instead of comparing the color of our skin. Say it with me. Ooh-sa, ooh-sa. And in the meantime, let's all work to start dropping these damn labels that only serve to divide us. We are all one source energy. Don't continue to look for ways to separate us from each other. Look for ways to bring us together. And that is where I will leave you for this episode. You have quite a bit there to digest. and we have so much more to cover and learn. I am Mad Mark, and I sincerely hope that you have enjoyed this episode. If so, please like, share, and comment. It helps so much. And please tell your friends and help spread the word about this show. If you have any questions regarding the content discussed on this program, just message me through any of my social media accounts or at madmarktv.com. Who Are the Aliens? The History of the Anunnaki on Planet Earth is written and produced by me, Mad Mark. Today we have taken another step in our ongoing journey to discover the truth. I promise you that things will get more and more interesting the further we delve into this topic of who are the aliens, the history of the Anunnaki on planet Earth. Bye for now.
You've been listening to Who Are the Aliens? The History of the Anunnaki on Planet Earth with your host, Mad Mark. Join us again on our next program when Mad Mark will once again uncover the answers to the mysteries that puzzle mankind.